over the last little bit, we've been hearing all kinds of stuff about Hegseth. We've been understanding that there's a ton of other stories going on. The tariffs have been fucking up the economy, all that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, Doge has been limping along, wasting everyone's time and money and not being efficient at all and basically shitting the bed. And I can't imagine why. Oh, it could be that they put her in charge of the House.
As the chair of the Doge committee, we've had a lot of great hearings.
Hearings. Nothing says you've gotten past the swampy politics of DC like hearings. All right.
Hearing was on Medicare. Guess what? No one is taking away anyone's Medicare. That's a lie that is being told by the Democrats and the media.
Why is it choppy like that? Is this how this whole thing is? Maybe Doge did her microphone. Fuck this. All right. Now, I'll try and find a better version of that in the near future. Nobody needs to see more of her than we absolutely have to. But meanwhile, Rachel Campos Duffy did an interview with Trump. Hold on, let me drag this in here. And hold on. This is, 2 days ago. Here you go. I feel like we did part of this before, but we didn't make our way through it. But I think they finally released the whole thing.
Los venezolanos les robaron las elecciones. Maduro no es el líder legítimo. La oposición ganó por mucho. ¿Cuál es el plan para manejar esta situación?
Well, we just did secondary sanctions, as you know. You saw that? Tariffs in a way.
Yes.
But secondary sanctions.
Tariffs in a way. So tariffs are sanctions, sanctions are tariffs.
On the oil. And basically anybody taking oil from Venezuela is not allowed to, in any way, shape, or form, come in.
What about prisoner transfers?
United States and deal with the United States in trade. And I never saw boats go so quickly out of a harbor. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. And we're looking at Venezuela very, very carefully.
Okay.
And that election was rigged. There's no question about it.
No question. Pues hablando de integridad electoral, muchos latinoamericanos están preocupados de que los Estados Unidos haya...
I love how Trump's just fluent in Spanish. You know what I mean? You get the feeling that he answers right away when she's done. He's so smart. I didn't even know he spoke Spanish. Well, heard Spanish, listened to Spanish, listened to women. I don't know.
Interferido en sus elecciones en Latinoamérica a través de USAID. Afortunadamente, tú bien sabes que usted cerró esa operación. Se compromete a exponer públicamente la interferencia electoral por parte de nuestro gobierno a través de los NGOs financiado por nuestro gobierno.
Well, I love this question, and I'm proud that you have the courage to ask it. And the answer is yes, we are going to do a lot having to do with elections. You need strong borders and you need good elections or you don't have a country. Those two things. And then you need other things like a free press. But you need those two things to start off with.
Right.
And we're going to do that. And USAID was a disaster. The money was given away by the tens of billions, by the hundreds of billions of dollars.
No.
And it was given away by a corrupt U.S. government and people that work for the U.S. government. And, yeah, we're looking at that very strongly. We had some very, very...
Oh, thank God. Right up there with Marjorie Taylor Greene's committee meetings, he's looking at things very strongly. I want you to know that, like, when he sees stuff, he goes, like, he's looking at it as hard as he can. Oh, look too hard, I think, on that one.
Powerful thing. Elon, his people were the ones that found this out, and they've done a great service to our country.
Yeah, I know that many Latin Americans, it's like they know what happened, and they know it. They want you to expose it.
Everybody
publicly.
knows.
Yeah.
Now, the one good thing is that...
Yes, there are a lot of Latin Americans who made it to the United States during the first Trump turn and afterwards post-COVID who want to make sure that other Latin Americans don't make it into the United States. They want to pull that ladder up after themselves. It's from the fine tradition of people who pull the ladder up after themselves. Rich Cuban immigrants who pay their way to the front of the line and don't want the boat people to make it to shore because they don't want to have to compete with them, even though they're doctors and lawyers and people like that. If they couldn't politically weasel their way to the country, then they don't deserve to be here. They deserve to drown in shark-infested waters. And there's still another group of people that are just the kind of Latin Americans that Trump likes in particular, the kinds with money and who can buy a gold card.
term. I call it the third term, right? I just don't want the results of the second term.
Yeah.
But we won it 3 times, but I don't want the results because it was terrible. What they've done to the border, when you think of it, what they've done to this country with the wars, Russia, Ukraine would have never happened. October 7th in Israel would have never happened. Therefore, you wouldn't have hostages to worry about. You wouldn't have had anything.
He just doesn't like doing the work. That's what this is about. Like, he's like, fuck, I have to do things. I was just going to golf and make myself rich.
Because Iran was broke. They had no.
No, they weren't.
They couldn't give it to Hamas or Hezbollah.
None of these things that Hamas did cost any money at all. The whole October 7th probably cost $120,000 all in.
But that would have never happened. The Russia-Ukraine would have never happened. The worst embarrassment in the history of our country, I believe, the Afghanistan withdrawal, the way we withdrew. I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country.
Yeah, that's so weird. No, staying in was the embarrassing part.
Wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have inflation. And I could name about 25 other things, but you don't have the time, especially in 2 languages.
Yes.
But
right, because someone is reading you the questions in English after she finishes.
It's so horrible what took place, and
horrible.
Some people don't want to mention it, but you know the other thing, the Democrats keep talking the same way they did. They still want to have men and women's sports. I was watching a news program today, and there was a congressman. I won't reveal his name because he was a nice guy, but he's so foolish, and he was fighting the announcer, asking the question, demanding that men be allowed to participate in women's sports. I said, this guy. Is he serious? It's just hard to believe. And that's.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I think he's talking about in one of the congressional committees where they were referring to a trans woman using male pronouns out of respect. And the trans Congress member. That's what that was about. That that was the complaint. It wasn't even about sports.
One of many things. I mean, transgender.
Because he doesn't know. It's the life.
For everybody.
Okay, and again, he thinks transgender for everybody is transhumanism, which is what Elon Musk wants, which is what the technocrats want, and Peter Thiel wants. He doesn't understand that transhuman has nothing to do with transgender or transsexual.
Open borders. How about open borders? Open borders. Let the entire world pour into our country from prison.
Yeah, that's not the plan at all.
Everything else, but let the entire world. And it's not South America, it's the whole world. From the Congo, is one of the biggest prisoners from the Congo jails pouring into our country.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was something about Congo. I remember, let's see. Congo, leaner, daughter, Trump Tower, something along those lines. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. Hold on. Yeah, U.S. prosecutors push to seize apartment tied to Congolese president and luxury Trump complex. Is that what you mean when you mean like criminals from the Congo coming into the country, buying apartments in Trump International? Terrible.
Who would allow this to happen? It's such a violation, so sad to see what happened. But I will say that by doing it.
Oh, I apologize. I should have done this earlier. He seems to be lit better so you don't see the bottom of his neck, but prepare yourself.
This way, it's a much more important presidency than it would have been if it was more standard. Mm-hmm. It's really become a historic presidency. And unless.
Hold on, I have to make this go away. It should do it again. 3, 2, 1. And. There we go.
Answer a question very badly for you. We're going to keep it that way, Rachel.
Right. That's right. You feel like you're wiser for having gone through the 4
Yeah, I do.
years?
I think I'm wiser. Nobody had any idea that something could be so corrupt. You know, nobody talked. In the old days, we didn't talk about like a corrupt election. You have an election, you assumed it was right. Turned out to be a total, like a scam. It's a scam. But when you.
Well, and that's the only word you can draw from your empty fucking skull. Yeah, say scam.
Think about it. How else can they win? Open borders, transgender for everyone.
Also, what the fuck does transgender for everyone mean? It means transhumanism, I know. Just like asylum seekers come from asylums.
The thing with women's sports, men playing in women's sports. I mean, you ever see the records of weightlifters? The
Yes.
difference between a man and just in lifting weights. But it's also dangerous for they have men boxing women. You saw what happened in the Olympics. 2 guys were in, 2 guys won, and they decimated their opponents.
Right.
It's so crazy.
No.
You know, great women athletes who really, to me, it's demeaning. It's just demeaning to women.
Yeah.
But they're on those kicks. I actually tell Republican politicians,
They're on those kicks. You know, the kids today.
don't complain, wait till before the election, because maybe they'll change it.
Esto fue lo que yo le pregunté a usted este verano pasado sobre devolver la transparencia al gobierno. If you were president, would you declassify? You can answer yes or no to these.
Oh, shit. They're going to play the whole answer? I don't think so.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah,
Would you declassify JFK files?
yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
Oh. All right. So they're going to play the edited version of that? Or is she going to ask him if they're going to actually do it?
Sé que Judicial Watch está demandando para obtener acceso a los archivos relacionados con, por ejemplo, Jeffrey Epstein. ¿Nos puedes dar un update?
Yeah, I would say just release it. He was somebody that was, I guess you'd have to say, notorious. And I would say release it. And I did release the full Kennedy files. You know, people said, well, maybe not everything.
Yeah, we're not. Nobody gave a shit. Yep, not a problem. Let's see. Is this the? Where is it? They edit the Trump thing. Where we go? Did they?
One of the things was having.
Would you declassify? You can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the
Jeffrey Epstein
Yeah, I would.
guy?
Yeah. Okay. So that was their edited version. Hold on. I'll see if I can find the. Hold on. Dink. Get out of here. Yeah. This is
Originally aired.
Here you go. This one. Whoops. Get out of here. Okay. This would be this part.
Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you know, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
Yeah, totally. That whole world.
But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there because that was a weird situation and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah,
You mean when you were president?
long way toward that one. The other stuff I would.
So that
Right. So they edited that out. She just did the same one, and he's basically doing the same dodge right here.
Update.
Yeah, I would say just release it. He was somebody that was, I guess you'd have to say, notorious. And I would say
No, how about a scumbag? How about a pedophile?
release it. And I did release the full Kennedy files. You know, people said, well, maybe not everything. And I said, if anybody has a problem, go to the office. We gave them an office address, and they can look at every single piece of paper we have and other files. And as you know, the January 6th and all of that, we freed the people. They were treated so badly.
Yeah, but what about the Epstein update?
There's never been, I mean, there have been some pretty bad instances, but there's probably never been anything like what happened with the people from January 6th who were.
Yes.
I don't know. The victims of Jeffrey Epstein, I think, probably had it worse.
Largely, and there's always exceptions, but largely great patriots for this country. And so many people were happy with that. You know, I did that.
And they were like, they almost forgot about the Epstein thing, and then you had to bring it up again.
Let them out. I gave them their freedom. They were treated worse than murderers. They were treated, I mean, people murder. They don't even go after them.
Yeah.
They know.
No one refuses to go after a murderer, you silly asshole.
They know where they are, where to pick them up. They don't even pick them up. They went.
Who? Who's not picking up the murderer? They know where they are and they're not picking them up. Who? Name one.
To these people so violently. And so I took care of that. I took care of a lot of situations.
Yeah, but you didn't take care of the Epstein records. So I was trying to wonder, like, why would the is that not?
Remember your last show? That show?
Yeah.
With the two very good people alongside of you.
Yeah, that was
and I think
fun.
I took care of every one of those things.
Yeah.
But I would do that, yeah.
You didn't.
What about J6? I'm sorry. What about the pipe bomber?
Yeah.
Ellos son terroristas. Esa persona que puso eso es un terrorista. Entonces,
Yes, I'm Marjorie Taylor Greene.
¿cuándo vamos a saber quién era esas personas?
Yeah, is this somebody you know personally?
It's amazing when they don't give you the information. When they don't, you know they're not on the right. The pipe bomber is not a person on the right. It's a person on the left, okay? And, when I watch...
Why? You're in charge right now. You have the House and the Senate. So if you're not giving it out, why? If you had an idea that it was somebody on the left, fucking say it.
Some of those people in the Capitol, our people don't carry ropes on their side and, this and that. Our people aren't.
What? Ropes on their side? What do you mean? Lassos?
Scaling.
Are you going to get to the bottom of it? People
we're going to try. Yeah, we're going to try.
Yeah, we'll try. I mean, you can't really, you would expect that it won't be, won't be able to get really to it as much as other people, It's like, we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, just don't ask me about the Epstein thing again.
And hey, look, the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs, these horrible people, Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, if they'd have released the Epstein files.
And two of the worst Republicans in history, crying Adam and Liz Cheney, two of the worst. They are just sick people. This was the committee. And it went for a year and a half. At the end of a year and a half, what did they do? They destroyed every piece of evidence they had.
No, they didn't. It's all online.
Because it came out totally on our side. Nancy Pelosi was responsible for the security. She knew that. She proclaimed it on her daughter's tape. I mean, her daughter's a videographer or whatever.
Why would she have needed security against your own people? I guess is the question. Why would she even needed to worry about your followers attacking the Capitol? Even if she was in charge of Capitol security, which she was not, even if she was in charge of it, why would she need to make sure that there were... And by the way, were there any Antifa in the Jan 6ers that were arrested for beating cops and tasing them and stealing weapons and bringing guns and knives into the Capitol building?
The hell she does. And she had Nancy complain, saying that she was responsible for it.
Yeah.
They burned everything. And then Biden gave them all apart. And these are Congress people. These are people that are in Congress, not respected members of Congress, but they're in Congress.
Yeah.
If you did that in a civil thing,
I know.
But think of it, they burned, deleted, and destroyed every single document.
No, they didn't. Like, it's just stupid. Please, God, let me run into this Duffy woman at some point, somewhere where I can go, you do realize that's a lie, right? That's just, you don't give a shit about anything else I say. Never mind the fact that I don't know anybody it would take 25 years to figure out Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and would be friends with him the whole time while it's happening and never live more than a 9-minute cab ride from his fucking house. Everywhere you bought a place somehow you're a neighbor of his. Never mind that fact. But you do realize that all that shit's still online. You can Google it. It's still there. All the evidence is still online. It is archived. It's still in the congressional record. You still have access to it. I mean, it's not even close to true.
After a year and a half, because like the person that said, I grabbed this massive Secret Service agent around the neck and I was rebuffed. And then I went to the other one, and I think he was like this big karate guy. And I went over there and I had friends that say, don't have it changed. It's so cool. I said, no, I just want the truth.
That's right.
But they burned all that information. And I think she recanted. I've heard
No, you haven't. Recanted?
Recanted her. And after 2 years, she said, no, it didn't happen. Isn't it a shame, though, huh? Isn't it a shame? I view that as being so egregious. And then what did Biden do? I don't know, him or the auto pen. Whoever operated the auto pen was really the president, because I don't know.
Sorry, did you hand sign all 1,600 of the Jan 6ers who were freed?
Biden gave them all their freedom because they were dead. I mean, They literally, and you know how they announced it? It was like a little sentence in a document that nobody saw but me and a couple of others. It said, for the sake of clarity, we have decided to destroy all documents, destroy and delete all documents having to.
Yeah, nonsense.
So they worked for a year and a
You're right. You're right. It is. It's unbelievable. It is not believable.
half, making everybody's life
Fucking
miserable.
hell.
They realized that they were guilty as hell. You know, all those secret agents, Secret Service agents, they honestly testified. They testified in a very honest way. And everything was wrong for them. And rather than exposing what they did, the criminal acts, they created a criminal.
Sorry. Who the fuck fell over in the background? What the shit was that?
And rather than exposing what they did, the criminal acts, they created a criminal act. And they did it like a really good. But could you imagine if I deleted and destroyed all documents from, and this is.
Oh, you mean like the Mueller grand jury testimony?
Hearing a
Or the Epstein stuff you haven't released?
big deal
You mean like all the stuff that the FBI found at Epstein's Island that's somehow in the wind?
that was set up that shouldn't have been
Did it all get thrown out of a helicopter as they were flying back to the mainland? Where'd it go?
to go forward. And that's it.
Yeah.
So we can't even go after them because they were pardoned.
Right.
No, we're dealing with very corrupt people. We have a lot of corrupt people in our government.
Hey, Sean
Well, we do now. By the way, I don't feel like we need to do more of that than usual. I just wanted to chip away at it. There's like 5 segments of that fucking thing. And I don't even know the order for which it goes, but Jesus Christ. Also, can I, let's see, let me fly this in here. By the way, hit the like, yeah, that's enough of dotard. I agree. The primary thing that we're going to watch for, I guess, over the next couple of days is that according to Ulyat, the guy who was the spokesperson for the Pentagon under Hegseth, there's a bunch of stuff that's going to come out this week. So we will keep an eye out for this. But what I have been watching for is the only thing, and CSL will keep an eye out for it this week, is people coming to Hegseth's defense. Seems to be few and far between so far, like in the second round anyways, in the last 24 hours. Now we'll see. Sometimes it takes the Greg Kellys of the world a little bit to respond to it, or Glenn Beck or those guys, like a couple of days for them to like build up the nerve to actually respond to any of this shit, right? But so far they just haven't. So far they're avoiding the conversation, or they are or they're hoping another story will eat it, like eat the news cycle. Yeah. I mean, they're counting on like the tariff collapse, the Harvard story, whatever, to eat up the time that we're talking about, so that people will forget about this again. And it isn't going to work. It's not going to work. I'm just telling you. It is not going to work. This is going to keep haunting them. He's going to get tired of it. And the irony is that Trump is more than likely going to fire Hegseth, not because of the legit reasons why they should be gotten rid of. Okay? He won't fire him because of Signalgate and he endangered our troops, or that he's a drunk and a fuck up, or any of that stuff. He's going to fire him simply because he's tired of being asked the question. And that's why the news media has the responsibility to keep pressing him. And as soon as the House or the Senate can call Pete Hegseth in for an under oath hearing, that's it. That's it. Because one of two things will happen. He will tell the truth under oath, and it will reignite the whole thing and eventually get him fired, or he'll lie under oath and it'll be very telling because there will be evidence, and they will have either hidden the details and not preserved documents. And by the way, and then everything they've ever said about fucking Biden or Hunter Biden or Shemp Biden or Guido Biden, none of it will matter, because they'll show themselves that it wasn't so much that they found evidence that the Bidens were engaged in anything. It was that they viewed it as, if we got in there, we could get away with a bunch of shit. And they aren't. And that's pissing them off. Meanwhile, apparently, I suppose we will keep seeing Jimmy Dore going, my God, these amazing gadgets are just wonderful, right? That's the Chinese are way ahead. Eek. It's so tiresome. It's going to be so tiresome. Good Lord. That said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I'm going to go build a flying car with my 3D printer. I mean, look, everybody needs a goddamn hobby. Just saying.
Michigan gave us Motang. Michigan gave us Motang.
Happy Motang Monday, everybody. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. Hold on. I'll go with this one. I feel like this is the one I want right now. That's what I'm going to go. All right. Talk to you later. I got to eat something. What a day.